Well, we start where the federal government shutdown sits on day 34. Now, the Senate is scheduled to reconvene today, despite both sides at a stalemate on finding a government funding solution. If there is a vote on a spending plan, it'll mark the 14th attempt to get one passed. This has become the second longest shutdown in history and is approaching tomorrow's mark of a 35 straight day, which would tie the longest set during President Trump's first administration. Let's bring in NBC's Washington correspondent, Alice Barr. Welcome back to the show, of course. And we're keeping an eye on a major deadline coming up at noon today tied to SNAP benefits. Now, how important is this, and what can we expect when the clock strikes 12?
Yeah, there's so much uncertainty right now for the more than 40 million Americans who rely on these low-income SNAP food benefits for feeding their families. And at noon today, the Trump administration is required to respond to a judge's order that they have to use contingency funds, emergency funds, in order to keep the SNAP benefits going. And the ruling is that those benefits are supposed to be reinstated by the end of the day today. So noon is the moment when the administration has to give its response about how they're going to do that. And President Trump posted over the weekend that he had asked his legal advisors within the Trump administration to take a look at how they could do this. He argued that he's been told that those contingency funds cannot be used to just immediately restart and keep the SNAP funds going. But that has been done in past shutdowns, that there have been contingency funds used in order to make sure that these really important SNAP food benefits don't lapse. So at noon today, we should hear the game plan from the Trump administration if they're not going to fight it, what they're going to try to do to comply with this judge's order to get those very important benefits back on track.
Yeah. Alice, we're getting a fresh look at who Americans are blaming for this shutdown. Talk about those new poll numbers for us.
Yeah, so this is a new NBC News poll that is showing that 52% of Americans surveyed blame President Trump and Republican lawmakers for the shutdown. 42% blame Democrats, with both President Trump and Democrats earning low approval ratings. And this is important to note right now because in the past, Republicans had gotten a wider share of the blame than Democrats. And while there is more blame being placed on Republicans, it's tighter. It's closer than it has been. And President Trump's overall approval ratings in the poll are just at 43% approving and 55% disapproving of his job performance. But the poll also found that there's a lot of opposition to Democrats. Just 28% of registered voters say they have a positive view of the party right now. So it's pretty doom and gloom in terms of how voters are feeling right now about both parties. The government shutdown is sure to have a lot to do with that, with people just feeling like the people in power are not doing what they need to do to take care of folks. Of course, the question of food benefits being a very clear demonstration of the consequences. Yeah,
all this on the heels of a rather major interview the president gave to 60 Minutes, which aired last night. Now, what are some of the other headlines that may come from this sit-down discussion?
Yeah, so he spoke about the government shutdown. He has been firmly and frequently and repeatedly putting the blame on Democrats. And he again raised the specter of having Republicans in the Senate get rid of the filibuster, which is what allows the party in the minority to have a say, essentially, and requires that there be 60 votes instead of just 50 for a lot of votes, for most votes. And that, if the filibuster were done away with here, then that would allow Republicans to reopen the government on their own. So he's saying that needs to happen for that reason, but also just in general. He said that Republicans have to, quote, get tougher. He said if we end the filibuster, we can do exactly what we want. So that's something that thus far Republican leaders in the Senate have said that they don't want to go along with, and it's often viewed as something that could be used against them when the next party comes into power. He also defended ICE tactics and said that they have to do more to get people out of the country who are here illegally.
All right. Alice, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.